So I'm delighted this morning to be with Stephen Green. Stephen's been introduced to me via Luke Hamill, my co-host for the Central London Property Meet. And it's just a really quick, short synopsis of Stephen's background. Stephen, thanks for joining me. We were going before doing this video in terms of the preparation about your background, and we delved quite a bit into how important elements such as mastermind have been to your success in your journey. Before we go into a little bit more in terms of practical um, background, in terms of yourself and what made you get into property, Stephen.
So the journey started for me in 2006. That was me. I was actually in the military at the time. I built up a little bit of money and I just was looking for something to invest in. And it was one of the guys who I actually worked with. He bought a couple of properties and I just thought, well, it seems like a smart thing to do. So I initially started off into buying a couple of buy-to-let properties and building up from there.
And Stephen, what type of numbers are we talking about in the early days in 2006? Was it 2006?
It was, 2006, yeah. So I think I actually set myself a goal. It come off the back of a course that I was put on in the military, a 3-week course. And I come off there setting some pretty big goals, bigger than any goals I'd ever set in my life. I didn't think I was actually capable of setting goals like that. And it was a back off working with a high performance coach. And I actually set myself a goal in 2006 to have £1 million worth of property within 10 years.
Sure. So, and 2006 began your property journey as such. Yeah. So what type of deals were you looking at? And most of the deals you've done, or all of them, are based in the northeast. Is that right? Northeast, northwest, Middlesbrough?
Yeah, northeast. Yeah, northeast. So it's all in the Redcar area, in the middle. People probably know it better as Middlesbrough, but it's Redcar on the coast. So I started off with just buying a little buy-to-let. It was a 2-bedroom bungalow, and the reason I was attracted to it was it didn't need any work doing to it, and it already had a sitting tenant who really took care of the property, and I just seen it as a stress-free sort of first project, because that was one of my concerns, was would the tenants pay rent, will they look after the property? So the fact that she was already in there, she'd been in there 6 years. The landlord, he was quite old, that's why he was selling the property. But he said she'd never missed a payment, she'd never been behind on any payments. So that's why I initially went for that first deal.
Sure. So let's just go into the first deal a bit more in terms of the numbers, if you remember. What type of pricing are we talking about, Stephen? And it may be hard for you to remember exactly.
No, I remember that. So I actually, it was on the market for £90,000. And I bought it for 86,000, and it was bringing in a rent of £450 a month. So at the time, it just about covered the mortgage. I think there was a tiny little bit to add in, maybe £5 or £10 a month.
So you went from buying that particular property. What made you get involved in property on a consistent basis and to make that your full-time career along with construction? Or how did construction fit in with property? Because you've also got a construction company as well.
That's right, yeah. So the construction part came first. So when I left school, I actually had an apprenticeship within doing plumbing and roofing. I just followed my mates. I didn't even really know what plumbing was at the time. And I remember them just saying, oh, plumbing's a good trade, you can get decent money. So I just kind of followed my friends, done an apprenticeship within that for 4 years. And then at 21, I joined the military, but I joined the Royal Engineers, so I was construction based for the 12 years that I was in the military. So I'd always predominantly been construction background. So once I bought the first property in 2006, my level of thinking on it back then was, I'm not adding anything into this mortgage, well, a very small amount.
So that last bit again about the mortgage, Stephen?
So I wasn't adding anything in. I was adding a very small amount into the mortgage, But after 25 years, I knew that that house would be paid off because it was on a repayment mortgage. And I just looked at it and thought, well, as long as I can manage this property and keep people in it, and I get decent tenants, it's going to probably be worth £100,000 plus by then. And I've not really added anything in. So my thinking on it was, where do you get a bank account where you can just buy something and someone else is putting the money in for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking about it. So just say that last bit again. Where else can you find, Stephen? If you can just, I love that expression you said. So if you can say that last bit again.
Yeah, so it was just, where else could you get a bank account where other people are putting the money in for you? So it was just that way of looking at it, of 25 years time, even if it hadn't gone up in value at all, someone had basically bought that house for me. So I knew it was setting up my pension. And that was the reason why, once after about 6 months it was going so smoothly, that's when I decided, right, I'm going to buy another one. And it just sort of went on from there. I've actually got 50 properties now.
Wow. So in terms of being consistent and your journey, we were talking about, and it's a shame it's only a 15-minute interview, because I could easily make it a lot longer. I've got so many questions, but that's the joy of you coming down in October. How do you consistently do it though, Stephen? You know, after a period of time, you probably earn enough income to keep you happy. So what's the drive to keep going and going?
I guess for me, it's I'm very passionate about it. I've found a great model that works. So for me, I won't ever stop until that passion goes away. So for me, I just love the buying, the negotiating of the deal. I love like taking a building and being able to convert it. So we currently one of the buildings we're working on at the moment was an old hotel. So it was a large pub at the bottom with a hotel above. And we're splitting that into 10 self-contained flats, a mixture of 1 and 2 beds. But I'm just so passionate about it. I love just the whole negotiating, getting the property, getting the lads in, doing the work, and just it's just very rewarding for me to be able to see a derelict pub be able to be turned into 10 very luxury flats.
Sure. Look, what do you enjoy most about the negotiation? Is it literally what specifically? Is there anything specifically you enjoy in the negotiation process?
I think it's the adrenaline, that excitement. It's a little bit of a game to me. That whole thing of I think I've always had that in me, to be honest. Like from a child, I was always looking at things to sell and things that I used to do with my friends. So I think it was always in me. I'm not quite sure where it came from, but I've always had that thing of enjoying doing the transactions. But I think one of the big things is within our area, because employment is low, I find it very rewarding to be able to put affordable properties and make them to a good standard. And you see how that impacts on people's lives. And that for me is also very rewarding as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Look, in terms of your successes, I'm sure I was just listening to a Grant Cardone video before doing this interview. Yeah. And he was talking about self-made, and is anyone ever really self-made because of, you know, the influence of who they mix with, whether it's a mastermind, whether it's the books they've read? What's been the greatest, I'm not sure what the word is, but the greatest catalyst to your success?
It's definitely been personal growth, because you can, the quality of your business, your income, your life will always be in direct proportion to the quality of your thinking. So my advice to other people would be, if you're wanting to improve your business, you're wanting to improve your portfolio, you want to improve your life, all them external things, work on yourself. Because the more you work on yourself, the more you raise your awareness, the quality of your thinking, then that'll impact on the external things.
So what three things would you focus on a daily or weekly or monthly basis to continue that property and that personal journey?
I would say that you've got to have a very clear vision on what you want. So understand what success looks like for you. And success is very different for each and every one of us. So understand what success means to you. For some people, that could be building up a massive portfolio. It could be being in a rock band. For some people, it could be picking strawberries in a field. So I would just say, find out what works for you. Don't be influenced by other people, because too many people think success is just having the money and the cars and the material things. So find out what exactly it is that is important to you. Have a clear vision on that. And then you must have solid goals off the back of that vision. So set yourself some very clear goals. And you've got to be persistent with it. You've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to make mistakes, and just keep going through that process, because I'm a big believer in something that I read in Napoleon Hill's book, that all success, we've got to face the test of adversity before we get success. So you'll generally face that wall, a point of where you think this isn't working, and it's a matter of being persistent and working through that. And you'll have great success if you've got that vision, the goals, and you keep working at it.
Stephen, so what will people take away from you when you present later this autumn in London? What do you think the takeaway from what you're going to be sharing is?
I'd like to show people that the mindset is the most important thing. Get that right first, because that's your foundations. So I'd like to cover a little bit on the mindset, some of the techniques, what I use personally, some of my daily rituals which have given me the success that I've got today. And then I just want to talk into a couple of strategies. So once you've got the mindset, it's just a matter of then of having a good strategy. And if you've got a good strategy to follow, then it's pretty much just following that process. And I truly believe that anyone with the right mindset and a good strategy can achieve whatever they want from life.
Stephen, I'd love to continue conversation. We will do this autumn. How can people get in contact with you before you present in Central London? So there may be some listeners to this interview, which I share on Twitter, on LinkedIn and other platforms, who may want to contact you directly. Is there a particular website you have, or Facebook page, or?
Yeah, I've got a couple of Facebook pages for the businesses. One of the ones on the property side of things on Facebook, that's called the Property Investment Academy. So that can be found through Facebook. It's something that I recently set up because I am planning on doing my own seminars now. I've got my own elite, my first elite booked in September. There's going to be a couple of seminars on that, teaching people within the North those strategies. So if people look on the Facebook page for the Property Investment Academy, they'll be able to see updates, what I put on there, some posts on there. And very shortly, I'll be releasing some dates for some seminars.
So, Stephen, I just want to say huge thanks. As I say, I look forward to seeing you later this autumn. So
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Great talking to you, Brendan.
And thank you to the listeners. And what I'd say to the listeners is, if there's a particular person you want me to interview, look, let me know, because this software, when it works, the key thing, when it works really well. So, it doesn't have to be someone who's based in London. Stephen, you're based in the Northeast, Middlesbrough. In fact, yesterday I tried to use this software for someone based in London. Didn't quite work. But it usually does, and it's usually great software. So, look, huge thanks to Zoom for creating this software, because without this software, it would be a lot more tricky to do these interviews. So, thanks, Stephen.